Okay, my ambitious, hardworking, high-achieving, hold yourself to ridiculously high standards, big-hearted, creative people. This episode is just for you, so listen up. Okay, raise your hand. Well, as long as you're not currently driving or wielding anything sharp or holding a baby or something. In that case, just imagine it. But otherwise, raise your hand if you have ever found yourself totally paralyzed when you go to start a new creative project. Your mind is racing about all the million different ways you could start, but you can't decide which one is the exact right way, the exactly right first sentence of your novel, the exactly right first stroke of paint on your canvas, the exactly right choice of your moment before for that big audition, or the exactly right choice of B-roll footage for that Instagram reel. And it has to be exactly right because you only put out high-quality work. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are a fanatic for details. Nothing less than the best will satisfy you. Mistakes, rough drafts, they might as well not even exist where you're concerned. No. So you wait. You wait for that lightning bolt of divine inspiration to strike, to show you the way to creative excellence. You wait for your desk to magically organize itself. Or for the sunlight to dim to just the right saturation in your room. Or for your home to grow completely silent. All so you can begin the work. You might wait a very long time.
It's been 84 years.
You make tea. You tidy up the kitchen. You balance your checkbook. Meanwhile, you're still waiting. This goes on for days, weeks, months. And if you happen to have an external deadline for this particular project, well, you continue to wait, and when you finally take some kind of action, it's usually at the 11th hour and out of sheer desperation that you must produce something of merit before the deadline hits. The clock eventually forces you to perform, and it's good. The result is not surprisingly really good. I mean, because, hey, it's you, am I right? And you start to believe that this is just how you work, what you need. You work best under pressure. Does all of this sound kind of familiar?
Ooh, baby.
If so, then you might be dealing with a little thing we like to call perfectionism. And despite all the stellar reviews and applause, and I'm guessing good grades that you've gotten in your life and work so far, I just bet you are tired of battling the perfectionism monster every time you want to create. Because even though you end up victorious in the end, and that dragon is slain, you are exhausted. Your armor is burnt to shit. Your sword is split in two. You don't even know where your helmet went.
Oh.
I mean, it's not exactly a recipe for sustainable creative output, and it certainly takes the joy out of the process and makes it so much more of a longer ordeal than it has to be. But never fear, I come bearing good news. Welcome to Aren't You Crazy, the podcast that helps you crush your creative goals 1 week at a time. I'm your host, Erin Elizabeth Reed, a former attorney who left my 6-figure legal career behind way back in 2011 in order to pursue my true calling as an actor, a writer, and a director. Joining me, as usual, are my fabulous co-hosts, Tessie and Erin, a multi-hyphenate actor with 27 years experience in the arts and mental health spaces. Give it up for Tessie. And Mel Mandara, a successful marketing director who helps small creatives make money online doing what they love. Say hi, Mel.
Hey, what's up?
Together, we are here to help you navigate the twists and turns of your own creative journey. And today, we've got 6 practical tips and mindset shifts from some of the leading experts and thinkers across the fields of science, psychology, and self-compassion that you can start using today to help you slay the perfectionism dragon in your life and creative work once and for all.
Mm-hmm. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So I'm guessing by some of the nods and chuckles during all of that, do either of you struggle with perfectionism?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. I'm beginning to break free from wanting to expose finished products instead of process, but I do still get in my own way of like saying, oh, but it's not done, but it's not up to the standards, and I feel like it's better to show process than just
result.
And just the final product.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to present results, but I feel like we are very oriented in the world to just focus on the results, and we forget about the process, and life is a process, so we kind of like forget to live in order to pursue.
Ooh, yeah.
So
Words of wisdom.
that was someone else talking through me. I don't know what happened there. Like, I don't know where did that come from.
You channeled something just now.
Like the Fifth Element. Lilu Dallas. But anyway, what about you, Mel?
Yeah, this is a big one. I feel like personality is a part of my personality. Wait, personality? Perfectionism is a part of my personality a little bit. I don't know, it's something I used to pride myself in, but I'm slowly realizing, is this a good thing? Like, is it really? I used to be one of those people that was either perfect or nothing at all. Like, it has to be perfect, or what's the point?
That resonates with me.
It will just end up nothing getting done or being put out into the world because I fear that it's not perfect. But I'm slowly learning slowly realizing that you achieve perfectionism by doing the same thing over and over again and learning from the mistakes. So it doesn't matter. You just got to do it. You just got to do it. Yeah. Like Nike.
Like Nike.
Like, but really interesting what you just said, because I was reading a book about mastery from the son of Don Miguel Ruiz, the one of the 4 agreements.
Oh, yeah.
And it's called The Mastery of Life. And he was saying mastery and the master is not the one that has perfected something. Is the one that practices it every day. That's being a master. Practicing and like doing it over and over again.
See, and this is why I love this podcast with the two of you, because completely without prompting, you both hit on some topics and ideas that are built into today's episode. So I'm so excited to dig in. I also, like you said about thinking about it with a little bit of pride, I too used to pride myself on my own kind of perfectionistic tendencies. Like, well, I create really great quality things that I put out in the world. So why would I ever want to back down from that? But it has also hindered me, I think, a lot more than it has ever helped. Like, for instance, just in researching this episode and putting together this topic, I mean, I got lost down some rabbit holes, like deeper than Alice in Wonderland, trying to put together the perfect outline for an episode on perfectionism. It was kind of meta. I mean, talking like reading the fine print of scientific studies from Spain, like different languages, Google Translate, like
very good, very good.
like, and that's when I realized, okay, this is something that I feel like I need to release or gain control of somehow. And it led me to some fantastic thinkers on this topic that I'm so excited to share with everybody today.
I'm excited to hear.
Yay! So first, let's just start at the beginning. What is perfectionism? Perfectionism is defined as the relentless pursuit of flawlessness, often leading to self-doubt and procrastination. In psychological terms, it was first defined in 1965 as a demand to oneself or others of a higher quality of performance than that required by the situation. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one hits.
Yeah. There's two main types of perfectionism. The first type is called self-oriented, and that's where we set really exacting standards for ourselves. We evaluate our own performance stringently, and we strive to attain perfection and avoid failure. The second kind is called socially prescribed, and that's when we have a belief, whether it's real or not, that other people have set unrealistically high standards for you, that they are stringently evaluating you, judging your performance and everything you do, exerting pressure on you to be perfect. So it can come from both within and without. There are 10 common traits across both kinds of perfectionism, and we can have elements of both in our lives. And these 10 traits, some of which blew my mind when I read, because I was just like, oh, this resonates. And I didn't even know it might have been tied to perfectionism. So here we go. 10 common traits. The first, obviously, is having excessively high personal standards, goals, and expectations.
That's definitely me.
Okay.
Yep.
Check. And like, there's nothing wrong with wanting to achieve great things in our life, but I think the key word there is excessively. Okay. 2, a strong fear of failure. So we have a strong aversion to making mistakes or falling short of those expectations. 3, procrastination.
Procrastination.
So-
The nation of procrast.
The nation,
Procrasti.
the nation of procrastination.
That one was actually really good.
So when we wait for the perfect moment or for conditions to be perfect in our mind before we feel we can even take action, or we wait because we have a fear of being imperfect, this causes us to procrastinate. All right. Trait number 4, overly critical of ourselves or others. So we often have very serious, like negative self-talk if it's reflected inward.
Or being judgmental.
Or, yeah.
Check.
5 is the first one where I was like, oh, wow, it makes sense, but I didn't associate it with perfectionism, is when you have difficulty delegating.
Ooh, I'll just do it myself.
Exactly.
It's not gonna be done.
It won't be done right, so I'll just do it myself. Yeah, that's definitely been me. 6, you have a rigid or a fixed mindset. This means you kind of have all or nothing thinking. Any small mistake in your mind is seen as a failure. You might as well just quit, start over, or what have you. You can't roll with the punches. 7, a preoccupation with the details. You might excessively focus on minor flaws or imperfections. Every tiny detail has to be correct. I used to be a footnote editor, essentially, for the International Law Journal at my law school. And I was responsible for making sure all the footnotes were formatted correctly according to the Blue Book, the style guide manual. It was things like whether a period was italicized or not in 7-point type.
You're talking little tiny words.
I'm talking like
mini words.
You need a magnifying glass to read the footnotes, but I have to zoom in like 300% and highlight just a period and see whether it's been italicized or not.
That's crazy.
That kind of thing.
Wait,
I was responsible for that.
volunteered to do this.
Oh, it was my honor to accept the position.
It was my honor to be perfectionist in the footnotes of the
That no one
international law.
reads.
The job required it of me, and I happily accepted it because, of course, I'm going to do it perfectly.
Are you one of those people that reads the terms and conditions of everything you sign up for?
I
No
always,
comment.
Yes, I always
Yes.
read the fine print
Oh hell no!
because I feel like I'm selling my soul every time.
I'm like,
I
accept,
sign
accept,
something, but all right. Well, I think that's another topic. But
The 8th trait is having a need for control. So if you feel anxious when things are not within your control or when outcomes are uncertain, you get
uneasy.
Yeah. 9 is you feel pressured by others' expectations or you fear making errors in front of other people. And 10 is profound achievement orientation. So you place a very high value on your achievements and success, often tying your self-worth to those
Call that
accomplishments.
ambition.
See, there's a light side and a dark side.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to look at, take a step back and look at all of these things strung together, does it create a healthy mindset and approach to your work? Or is it restraining you? Do you feel shackled by all of these things?
I feel like perfectionism might be tied to imposter syndrome a little bit.
Maybe it has a relation to that. Succeeding or being up to the standards sometimes is not even that others are putting the pressure. It's just that we think that they're putting the pressure.
Yes.
So, and that's where I really gonna put the nail in the wall and say, people, we think we have communication skills, but we really have a long way to go, because that can be solved with communication skills. Just talking out, I feel like you're expecting this from me, and that's the way I'm reading it. And then the other person can say, no, I think that I'm sorry if I made you feel like that. And then, you can move on from that, and you can actually get things done and have fun and everything, without those ideas that sometimes, sorry, my cat, are self-generated. When the man is crossing the screen. I have that with my writing. Oh, maybe my family will judge me. Or maybe if I share something that I wasn't supposed to share, or if I say something about my childhood and my family thinks I'm exaggerating, and I overthink all that, instead of just saying, well, that was my experience and it's honest, because that's how I felt it. It doesn't have to be about other people. And so why is it so paralyzing?
Yeah. I don't know why, other than just that it is.
I think social media just adds unnecessary pressure. And I saw this girl, she posted something about when she started to post, vlog, or just post about her life, or just build her personal brand. She blocked all her family members and friends because she felt there was unnecessary pressure, those eyes on her. I don't know, it's almost like demons on your shoulders a little bit. Always having to wonder, there's a certain release that gives you the freedom to just express yourself openly, because you're sharing with strangers and you really don't care what they think. But these people in your lives, their views of you, they have such a hold on you. You could share it with the world, but maybe you're not ready to share it with them.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think that, and maybe that's where my fixed vision of things is. It's either I share it or I don't, it's just, there's no middle ground, because it's going to take me longer to block and unblock and restrict and unfollow and all of that than actually grabbing my little piece of writing and just do a 30-second video and say, okay, I'm here it goes. It's just, I feel like the process preparing to shield myself from their opinions will take me longer than the time that I could gather the courage to share. So I think that it's just something that I have just to jump the bridge, and I might not really even be judged that severely. I might even in my head. And if I'm very severely judged just for my artistry and the way I express myself, then, so be it. So be it. I can't control the other person's response. I can only control how I take things, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of it. I think learning how to cultivate a fuck it attitude can be very cathartic and releasing to those of us who struggle particularly with perfectionistic tendencies. And realizing that maybe the consequences of taking those fuck it actions, there won't be as much blowback on you as we build up in our minds.
I think it comes
That
with
there will be.
time.
Yeah.
I feel like the older I get, the more I'm just like, or maybe it's a New York thing. Like the more I've been in New York, the more I'm just like, fuck it. Like I'm just living my, like, fuck it. Like fuck what everyone thinks. Like New York just gives you an energy, a spark where you can just walk out the house and just be yourself, like express yourself. I feel like the longer I've been here, the more I've been brave enough to step outside this box that I've created for myself.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a fantastic point of transition. The idea of building a box for ourselves, even if we think it's a box of being perfect. It's
sometimes a box of safety, like where we feel safe and comfortable.
It's still as limiting. I mean, how can you get anything done with ease or speed when you're constantly having thoughts of failure, guilt, indecisiveness, shame, low self-esteem? I mean, as a creative person, I mean, anyone can suffer with perfectionism, not just creatives, but in your creative life, it might manifest as writer's block for writers, or somebody who's perpetually rewriting and editing. I know a lot of times in the past I would edit as I'm rough drafting and I would just get stuck on like one sentence for an hour.
When that little red squiggly line pops up under the word, like I'm so like,
when it's against all the advice that everybody that has published tells you, they say just write and then don't read it. Wait, leave it for 1 week, leave it for 2 weeks, like, and then you come back to the editing place. Like I know that Margaret Atwood says, I just wrote and wrote and wrote, and until I got to the page 70, it's when I started to think that I could start maybe thinking about an outline. First, I just throw myself in there.
Yeah.
And see what comes out.
Yeah.
And then there will be moments where nothing makes sense, and then I have to delete 30 pages.
Yeah.
But it's not until I get to the 70 page that I start thinking about going back to it.
Yeah.
Because then I don't want to block whatever creatively is coming.
Is flowing.
It's
and
flowing.
She's a prolific, published writer. Not just a writer, prolific writer, but someone who's published prolifically. And that just goes to show you it's not getting in your own way. If you're a painter, you might feel similarly. Like I've heard that facing a blank canvas can be very daunting, just like facing a blank page.
I've met someone who was a painter.
Yeah.
And she had paintings in her room all over the place. They were finished from my point of view. Like, could have been in a gallery, could be sold and everything. But I could tell that she suffered from perfectionism because she would point at an area and be like, this tiny 1-inch square block right here, I worked on it for 8 hours. Like I got high and just painted that area for 8 hours. And it's not finished. I have to do it again.
Wow. Yeah.
And there, like, it was minute detail. You could see nothing like wrong with it from my point of view. And I was just like, oh my God.
It's that paralysis. That paralysis. For my fellow actors out there, perfectionism might present as adhering to punctuation in a script or adhering to non-crucial stage direction, like not giving yourself the leeway to come up with what is organically calling to you in the scene. Being like, no, I have to say it right. It's, hello, comma, how are you doing today?
Yeah. Or like, oh, what they're going to think about me in the room. What do they want to see? Not what you want to do.
Yeah. What do they want? The character breakdown, like, oh, but I don't have sideburns, and the character breakdown has sideburns, so I'm going to draw them, like things like that. Or stage fright. Losing your voice, public speaking, marketing, maybe playing the comparison game.
With marketing is a little bit different.
Yeah.
Everyone who's on social media today is doing some form of marketing. Whether it's presenting yourself to the world in a way that's digestible, where people want to like you. That's marketing.
Mm-hmm.
It gets so paralyzing sometimes that people are always like, I want to like post more on social media. I want to post the stuff I do. I want to build something. When it comes to it, we just get so paralyzed. It's not perfect. Tessie, you're good at it. Like, you just get up and you just post. You don't care. Like, in the bedroom working out, like things that I would be like overthinking.
I guess I'm trying to do that, to say it doesn't have to look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And if one day is just me like cooking something and talking about a revelation that I had of a manifestation while cutting onions and crying, then fine. You know, like I'm trying to shift my vision there, instead of always having something that, oh, at first I have to put it in CapCut, and then I have to put subtitles on it, and then I have to make it yellow because I wanted to represent the sun, and then and then I end up not doing it, and I don't do it. You also have no idea how much footage I have that I haven't touched just because I had an idea of what I wanted to do, and I go, yeah, I want to do that in an Edgar Allan Poe style, and the file's still there.
Yeah.
And I recorded it 3 years ago. And it's like, oh, what happened to that creative spark that came when I was looking at the snow? So still working on that, but I appreciate that you said that, because sometimes I don't see it.
For the creatives out there, is the work you're creating as impactful as it could be if no one sees it?
Oh
God, man!
Oh. I know.
That hurt.
Right.
But it's so aligned.
Like the lady Emily Dickinson. She wrote and wrote and wrote, and she will never know the impact that her writing had. Like, what if no one found it?
Hiding your work away, and it being a stroke of luck that it was ever found.
And all the people's life that she's impacted, like her work.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to share something really personal.
Do it.
I can remember being a 8, 3rd grade, writing in my diary and fantasizing about being dead. And all of my creative works being found like a treasure trove in an attic somewhere.
Doesn't surprise me.
I guess because the fantasy was I was removed from the situation, and then people after me could say, wow, she was a beautiful writer and had such effective, like, she touched me emotionally, but I didn't have to like bear the scorn of rejection or okay. So wow. Circling back to our traits.
Back from the grave, back into the land of the living.
I think this is the beauty of like a podcast. Like, you just never know what a conversation is.
Yeah. And I'm learning as I go within this whole episode. I can create a beautiful outline, but it's flowing with the two of you, your minds and hearts, that really makes something personal. I didn't plan on sharing that. I don't even really know, but yeah. I didn't understand until I was researching these traits on perfectionism that they can come with low self-esteem. And I always have felt like I suffered with low self-esteem, but I couldn't understand why I should, because I objectively know that I'm doing pretty good in the world. You know, I have a lot of things I should be proud of. I have a lot of things going for me. So why wasn't I satisfied with it? And now I felt like a little light bulb went off, like, oh, this might be tied to my perfectionism, or constantly battling indecision. Do I do this? Do I do that? I always just blamed it on being a Libra, you know. And now maybe I can point to, you know, it being tied to having this perfectionism take hold of me. So let's talk about where perfectionism comes from. And I'm curious whether it's in our nature, if we're just born with it, or whether it's something that we learn from our caregivers, society. Is it nature? Is it nurture? And I'm just curious if either of you have any guesses.
Both?
I was thinking the same thing.
Well, ding, ding, ding. You're actually right.
Ding, ding.
Perfectionist.
Ding, ding, ding.
They are perfectly right. It can be either. And a lot of the times it's usually some combination of both. So let's talk about nature, traits that you're born with. It can actually be genetic. There have been multiple scientific studies across the world that show that those that are assigned female at birth are slightly more predisposed to develop perfectionistic tendencies than those assigned male.
Makes sense.
Yeah, by about 4 to 7%. The second, on the nature side of things, the things that we're born with, could be psychological factors. So certain inborn clinical personality traits have higher links with perfectionism. Things like neuroticism or what's called low agreeableness. That's when you're just naturally less trusting, less cooperative, a little more antagonistic. Those types of people tend to be related to the socially prescribed perfectionism. And then on the flip side, people who are born with strong introverted traits, people that are withdrawn and more self-focused, they tend to suffer more from the self-prescribed perfectionism. Yeah, I lean toward the more introverted side of things, a little more withdrawn.
Me too.
I think I have both.
Yeah.
You'd consider yourself introverted?
I'm an introverted in a way where there are certain moments that I prefer to be alone and like just left alone with my thoughts, and even like spending too much time creatively with people kind of like saturates me, even though it's the thing that I love the most. At some point I'm like, just shut up. I don't want to listen to your theories anymore. Just want to read a book in silence and fart. You know, but in a way I'm extremely extroverted and like socially, like I do get energy from social exposure and everything. But I feel like also as I have become older, before it was all about the outside. And now it's more about the inside. It's like, what do I think? What do I want? And can I navigate connecting to the outside in a way that I'm not actively pursuing their approval or their validation, which before it was like my world to get validated. So it was more like imposed by myself in a social scope, and now it's more like breaking those patterns. I'm still perfectionist, but I'm like in the pathway of like trying to break those limiting beliefs, I guess.
Yeah, working with it.
Or work in progress.
Yeah, works in progress. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Let's talk nurture. So the environmental or learned ways that perfectionism can come about. Some of them, honestly, are parental and cultural expectations. There are families, cultures, societies where approval is conditional. Love and acceptance is conditional on success or achievement. There are educational institutions where prestige and high achievement is a focus and a top priority, and they will exert pressure on their students to perform and be perfect. And then there are things like, sadly, just adverse childhood experiences, things that affect us as young people, traumas, neglects, family dysfunction. These can all be environmental roots of perfectionism. I'm curious what you think might be some of the personal roots for your own battles with perfectionism.
You want to go, Tessie? Go first.
I'm not gonna get too deep, but definitely I grew up in a household where the standards were really high, and it was more of like a kind of like a military approach to things. Things had to be done a certain way in very specific parameters and with very measurable things. And if you fell short of that, or you had like different personality traits that didn't align with what a Latino woman of a certain middle class had to be put up, or like a lady like, and all of that, then obviously it was like heavily judged. So I do think that there was a lot of pressure. And instead of becoming rebellious and angry all the time, because I was rooted in anger and in revelry because everything was so imposed that I wanted to go against it, now I understand it, and I'm like, well, that me being this way is not gonna change your mind about what the idea that you have of me. So I'll just tell you what you want to hear, and I'll continue doing whatever the fuck I want. But in a beautiful way. Now I don't tell them, why you want me to be this way? Fuck you. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's a very good advice. Why didn't I think about that? Okay, well, yeah, I'll definitely apply it. Next, I'm doing whatever the fuck I want. But everybody's happy.
I don't even know where to start. There's just so much. Being the eldest, I feel like, has an impact on you. And then being the eldest when your mom's a single mom, so you become the other parent to your younger siblings. And you have higher expectations, even if they're not imposed on you. In your head, you're just like, especially as an immigrant, you have to be the one to like create a legacy for your family, or just build something and take care of everybody else, or being the one in America, be the one that makes it, become successful, save the family, if that makes sense. There's so many things. Architecture school is rough. If you look it up, if you Google it, it's one of the roughest courses, like university courses. Setting expectations for myself. I'm like, okay, I am going to be successful. What's the point of life if I am not like at the top? So as a kid, I was just like, I have to be rich. I have to be successful, whatever success means. And I just set these very, very high standards. And because I haven't gotten there yet, I don't really think about it as much. I just continue working really, really hard. But I feel like if I allowed myself to sit down, I would probably like, there's a whisper in the back of my head. Are you a failure? Like, are you worthy? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, totally. What about you, Erin?
For me, hold on, I need a little sip of water before this. For me, I mean, it was kind of twofold by the two main other women in my life. My mom, she had four kids in like 9 years, and she was dealing with a lot. She wasn't a single mom, but dad worked such long hours. He was often gone to work before we got up for school, and then he was back late. So we didn't spend as much time with dad as we did with mom. And I also was the oldest child, and so I remember this idea of feeling like I needed to help mom out to make her life easier so that she wasn't as overwhelmed with raising my siblings. So that definitely impacted me. I remember feeling like I was lovable by her because I made her life easier. And so I always strove to not cause any waves, not cause any trouble. And then the other was my grandmother, my dad's mom, who I loved my grandma, don't get me wrong. I love my mom, don't get me wrong. But my grandmother comes, she was from the era where, it was like housewives wearing pearls, vacuuming, with the perfect smile, and got the hair done at the salon once, like she came from that era. And so she very much wanted to instill that kind of ladylike, perfect behavior and appearance and values in me. She also was very Catholic. And so the stories in the books that she read me were all about the, Bible stories, and God will not love you and let you into heaven after you die unless you behave and act perfectly. So these kinds of things really fed into me. I remember she would sit me up and be like, watch your posture. And, and I was, 5, 6, 7, like to sprinkle baby powder in the bottom of my panties so that I didn't have like vaginal moisture or odor.
You were so
5?
little. Yeah, you were so little. Not criticizing your grandma, but...
Well,
I am.
I mean, God rest her soul. Yeah. These women loved me, and my mom is still with us. She loves me. I never doubt that. And I love them too. And I don't ever think that they intentionally were critical or putting these kinds of pressures on me. Like there's absolutely no blame. It's just my own reflection of my own youthful experience, you know, how my brain absorbed the environment and what was being put at me, and how it kind of translated.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's kind of it for me.
Oof.
Yeah.
You said a lot, and like I related to so much of it. Like when you were speaking about being the eldest and wanting to help your mama, even to this day, I kind of struggle with it. I felt like I couldn't show emotions. Like I wasn't allowed to be sad or angry or
You had to
cry.
You had to figure stuff out. Yeah.
On my own.
Yeah.
I didn't have the room to express myself. I just had to be quiet and obedient and just helpful. And to this day, like I struggle with my emotions, like feeling anything other than just neutral about anything.
And maybe because I'm the youngest, my experience was the opposite. It was kind of like, how do I make them angry?
Oh.
How do I piss them off to the limit so that they see me? And it had the opposite effect, which made it a vicious cycle.
Oh.
They would ignore you?
Or they would like say, oh, you want to cry? Well, cry on your own. And they would close the door and leave me there for 3 hours to cry by myself and self-regulate and stuff like that, which made me even want to cry more and more and more, so that maybe by like that's in my child brain, that was like, oh, if I scream louder, maybe at some point they will come and hug me. But it didn't work. You know, so it was kind of like that mindset that I had, that I need to just like get their attention at any cost. And that's interesting to notice.
Psychology is fascinating. I mean, truly fascinating.
Yeah, with all like the cycles.
Yeah.
Oh God.
It took me a very long time to, I think as children, at some point we become really angry with our parents. I don't know why. I notice it like in other people as well. There's just a certain age period where like, no one loves me.
Yeah.
I hate everything. If I die, no one would care.
Yeah, it's true.
I just have a lot of feelings.
It took me a very long time to just like, I called up my mom once. Mom, I had like some angry years, like teenage years, like just so angry at you. Because I think I didn't have the space to like express myself, or that I was so caught up in me. Like, how about you tell me your story? Like, what about you? Like, who are you? Like, and it was, I barely said anything. Like, she was on the phone for like 3 hours. I was just asking questions, like just following up with whatever she would tell me about her story. Like, tell me about when you were 5, or like, what are your desires? Like, what do you want? Just like as a human being. And it wasn't until having that conversation with her, like seeing her as just her own person, that I was able to just forgive, like be able to just, you know, she wasn't doing anything to hurt me. She loved me, and she was just showing me love the way she knew best, or knew how to.
Well, I mean, I'm not a therapist, but from the standpoint of the training that I've had, it's just a phase where we always go to. If the things that we cannot process or understand or make sense of, we enter this thing that's called a victimization cycle, where it's easier to put the blame on someone else or to make everybody responsible for our suffering instead of like owning it, but because we don't know how to own it yet. So that's why like it's so important to like, you know, have a conversation when you're a teenager with someone that's not trying to be condescending and says like, you know, things are rough right now. Like I know that you're feeling like nothing makes sense, and I wish I could make it better. I can't. You're gonna blame me. You're gonna tell me that I'm the worst enemy. I'm not. Like, I'm just being human. I'm doing my best and trying to support you. But the problem is that we don't have those skills installed in society or in schools or anything. So rarely parents, at least of our generation, had those skills to talk to us as children. Like, I remember I had to talk to my cousins after they lost their dad about this and say, you know, that this is like these circumstances that you're going through, they don't have to define you. Like that you're okay. You're a completely human being, and they're not happening against you. They're just happening because life is just that way. But they probably needed someone to talk to them. I'm not saying that I'm the best or whatever, but I wish I would have that. And that what you said about just listening to the story of your mom, that's some of the things that I wish I would I could have, that I would have had that maturity to say, I couldn't foresee that my mother was gonna die when I was 19. But if I could have, that to say that, like, listen, I've been stuck in my victimization cycle trying just to make you pay for my anger. Like, who are you? Everything I know about my mom is because somebody else told me, and probably inaccurately. So I'm glad that you did that.
Yeah, that's really...
Like, honestly, that's such a beautiful gift for both you and your mom.
I think the reason why I had that conversation with her is because of my sister. Shout out to my sister. I think me and my mom were just arguing all the time for months and months. Like, we just couldn't get along. And my sister, like, she'd be the middle person. So my mom would complain about me to her, and I'd complain about my mom to her. And she just said to me one day, can you just stop? I literally just had a friend, her mom died. Will this be how you remember her? I just really, like, punched me in the gut. And you know what? She's right. Like, she's human. Am I just always going to be angry, always play the victim? Or am I going to just understand that we're all humans? Like, she had me when she was like 19. Like, imagine if I was 19 as a parent. Like, would I have been doing anything better?
We're still just kids.
Exactly.
Our frontal cortexes aren't formed.
So I'm so happy that you were able to do that for your cousins, though, because some people never get that, like, person to sit them down. Some people will play the victims for the rest of their life.
Yeah. I had also had the conversation with my dad of, like, saying, listen, like, I might not have been the best daughter, but I want to have a relationship with you for the time that we have left. I don't know if I'm going to go first or you. But the reality of things is that we don't know. So can we just make our relationship work? Because I'm done with fighting with you. I don't want to fight with you anymore. But I had to take that step because I know that, man, my dad he's a beautiful person, but he doesn't have those skills. And then when I opened the door, he opened up. And, he shared things that I never thought it was possible to hear from him. I'm glad that we did it. We might not be as close as I would like, but I also live in another country. And he has his life, I have mine, but at least I will, like, if I, God forbid, but if I die tomorrow or if he died tomorrow, I would be at peace with it. Both me, I hope, for him, and I mean, I hope it doesn't happen, because I know that for a parent to lose a child is, like, awful. But if it is, like, I might be writing my epitaph right here. And aren't you crazy?
Oh God, don't say that, please. No.
Back on wood.
So I guess this could segue into the idea of perfectionism, that there are no perfect people out there, and there are no perfect families as well. Because growing up, I used to think that my family was the worst family in the world, and this is just showing me there's no such thing as perfect.
It's just interesting to me how the internalized beliefs that I can only speak for myself, but that I formed as a young person can continue to dictate so much of my current behavior and self-talk and thought patterns. Tessie, you remember the drunk Shakespeare casting notice that you sent me over the summer?
Yeah.
I think it was.
For Lady Macbeth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was so excited to apply for this role because Lady M is a role that I have always wanted to play. It's one of my favorite Shakespearean plays. And I'd already worked very deeply on a monologue and a scene with one of the best living Shakespeare directing coaches and actors in our time. Mary Lou Rosado. So I was like, yes, let me leap at this chance. But when I got down into the weeds of actually scheduling my rehearsal and audition and application process, I somehow didn't feel like my previous work was enough. It wasn't going to show my personality enough. It wasn't going to be charming enough, because the role is generally viewed as so wicked of a character. So I decided, well, I'm just going to pick an entirely different monologue from an entirely different play to audition with. And so I found a monologue that seemed intriguing to me. But then even that wasn't good enough. Before I could work on that monologue, I figured I needed to know the context of the scene. And that wasn't even enough. No, I had to understand the context of the entire plot, which of course meant I had to read the entire play. And it's good practices. I'm not saying that, but before I knew it, the deadline to submit for the casting had passed me by. And I hadn't finished the whole play. I hadn't learned the new monologue. I hadn't even brushed up my previous Lady Macbeth monologue that I'd already spent 8 months on. 8 months. And it wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So the opportunity to do this play, especially one of my favorite plays, one of my all-time favorite characters, for pay with a reputable company here in New York City, had just vanished. Like, I was sure that I wouldn't be good enough for it. So I invented these ways to perfect myself, to ensure that I got it, but was subconsciously just sabotaging myself and reinforcing that inner critic belief that I wasn't good enough for it and never would be. And I was so defeated because I was watching myself do this to myself. It was like a week-long process, but I didn't tell anybody about it while it was happening. I didn't share with you. I just kept my mouth quiet and moved on to the next thing. And I probably still haven't grieved it properly. My perfectionism really blocked me from going after something that I otherwise should have felt was within easy reach, at least easy reach to audition and apply for.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious if there's a particular instance in any of your lives where your perfectionism has blocked you from achieving a creative goal.
Creating content for myself.
Yeah?
I don't know. It's not perfect, so I don't do it. It's not exactly how I want it to be. So the overwhelm and, I need this, I need that. Really and truly, I don't. You don't.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, you don't really need much to create content. But then when it comes to myself, I think I need everything in the whole world. And it's just me procrastinating.
I think I do it for writing because I always think that I'm not writing well enough for the language that I'm choosing to write on, and I have been like detaching myself from writing in my mother tongue for so many years that I don't know how to access that anymore. Like, I fully speak in my mother tongue, but I don't know how to access poetic and literature writing style in it, which creates a lot of like judgment on my end of like, if I cannot even write in Spanish, what makes me think that somebody would read my content in English?
Oh, wow.
Or like stuff like that. The grammar might not be impeccable. The syntax might not be great. The emotional process of the characters may not be profoundly spoken out in another language that is not mine. So I'm trying to get out of my own way and saying, the fact that you're writing it in another language is already a success.
Yeah.
So just try it. Like, you can never know. At the end of the day, if it's bringing me joy to go through the process of writing, then who cares if people like it, if it's bringing me joy?
Yeah.
That's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. Because the only road that I can live is my own personal path, not how other people receive what I do. If it pleases me, that's good enough.
Yeah.
So trying to apply that.
I love that.
Doesn't work all the time.
It's
But then what have you found in your research that could be a good idea for us to tackle like these problems?
Well, I'm so glad you asked.
Yay!
Because luckily, I unearthed 6 very practical tips and mindset shifts from some of the leading experts and thinkers across the fields of science, psychology, and self-compassion that we can all start using right now very simply to help us overcome perfectionism in our life as well as our creative work. So the very first tip is set realistic goals and deadlines. Dr. David D. Burns, a cognitive behavioral therapist and author of Feeling Good, the New Mood Therapy, has specific techniques to help people overcome their perfectionism. He says perfectionists often don't realize that the alternative to perfectionism is not imperfection or mediocrity, but reality. So he recommends making SMART goals for ourselves. SMART is an acronym, and it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals. So our second tip is the idea that done is better than perfect. Everybody knows deep down that perfection doesn't exist. It's not something that you can actually achieve.
Mm-hmm.
So you will make faster progress if you allow yourself to just get things done, just push them through, roll them along, rather than attempt to make them perfect. If it's 85% right or 85% good or 85% done, then it's good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Call it done. Close the book on it. Put it out there. The idea is that we start to disprove this belief that anything less than perfect is unacceptable. For me, I find listening to binaural beats or lo-fi work study beats, you can find them on YouTube.
That helps me with music that has no lyrics. I know that you can relate when you're doing like writing things. It's really hard to like focus on writing about whatever you're writing and then listen to "Baby, can I hold you tonight?"
Yeah.
So you start writing "Baby, can I hold you?" And you're like, but I was writing about cortisol. "Baby, can I hold you tonight?" And it's not, and no, I don't want to hold you tonight. I just want to write about cortisol.
Okay. So the next two tips have to do with developing self-compassion and positive self-talk from Dr. Kristen Neff. Dr. Neff is a pioneer in the field of self-compassion. Her work emphasizes how self-compassion can counteract perfectionism by fostering a kind and supportive inner dialogue rather than a critical one. And one of her key tips is to develop a set of self-compassion phrases or mantras.
Ooh.
But there's actually a recipe that Dr. Neff recommends to have the most positive change, and it's got 3 parts. So the phrase that you come up with should, number 1, acknowledge your pain, number 2, remind you of your common humanity, and number 3, offer yourself kindness. For example, this is a difficult moment, but I can get through it. I'm doing the best I can, and that's enough. It's okay to make mistakes. That's how I learn and grow. I may be struggling now, but that does not define me.
You got this, bitch.
Yeah.
Come on, kiss me.
Oh, God. It's crazy how we have to like train ourselves on how to love ourselves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It really feeds into her second tip, which is to write a self-compassion letter to yourself. And then you have it. You can read the letter whenever you're feeling down or self-critical to help you get over those when you feel your perfectionism really kicking in and trying to keep you stuck.
Don't give up.
Don't give up.
You are enough.
So our final 2 tips are mindset shifts. They come from Carol Dweck, PhD. Carol Dweck is known for her research on mindset. Her book is called Mindset: The New Psychology of Success. And she discusses how a fixed mindset, often linked to perfectionism, can be transformed into a growth mindset, which embraces challenges and views effort as a path to mastery. So her first tip is to celebrate the effort over your talent. A growth mindset emphasizes effort and diligence as the keys to success rather than innate talent or skill or intelligence. So you recognize that sustained effort is what leads to long-term success and improvement over time rather than flogging yourself to get it right the very first time.
Yeah.
And also she recommends don't just praise yourself, but praise others that you see for their hard work and perseverance, not just for their natural ability. And finally, tying into that theme of celebrating effort, our final tip is to redefine what success and failure actually mean to you. Okay, everybody. Well, that's it for this episode of Aren't You Crazy? We hope you found it as illuminating as we did. The perfectionism dragon has a weak spot. It's not invincible. All you need is the right weapon to battle it. So which will you choose to pick up? Will it be the sword of smart goals? The arrows of the 85% rule? The shield of self-compassion letter or mantras? The mace of mindset shifts? Let us know in the comments. And because we know you perfectionists out there are gonna want to know more, links for all the research, books, and other resources that we mentioned in this episode will be down in the episode description for you. Just remember, don't get caught up in doing it perfectly. All right, signing off from Aren't You Crazy, your allies ready to aid you in your quest. This has been Erin.
And Tessie.
And Mel.
Thanks for joining us, and stay crazy out there, y'all.
Stay crazy!